In tonight's headlines, the health department to offer free HPV vaccinations to female residents aged between 16 and 20 to protect them against cervical cancer. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris tells her supporters not to lose hope and keep on fighting, despite a crushing loss in yesterday's election. And Europe's biggest economy descends into political turmoil after German Chancellor Olaf Scholz fires his finance minister, ending a three-party coalition. Starting next month, the Department of Health will begin a phased program offering free human papillomavirus or HPV vaccinations to female residents aged between 16 and 20 years. The initiative is aimed at better protecting the age group from cervical cancer. Approximately 190,000 women born between 2004 and 2008 will be eligible to get the shots. Taking to the airwaves, Lao Yulong, chairman of the Scientific Committee on Vaccine-Preventable Diseases, stated that 2 doses of the vaccine are sufficient, but 3 doses are required for individuals with compromised immune systems. Lao also noted that, considering the use of public funds, the program will currently not include boys. The Center for Health Protection announced that the first phase will cover girls in secondary, studying in Form 5 or above. Every school will have to make arrangements with the outreach teams to administer the shots. The second and third phases will roll out in the first half of next year, targeting post-secondary and university students, as well as those who have completed their local education. Eligible applicants must be registered with the e-health system in order to receive the shots. The hospital authority has announced plans to streamline the process for introducing new medications in Hong Kong, reducing the approval time from 10 months to 5 months. Speaking on a radio program, Chief Pharmacist of the Hospital Authority, William Choi, emphasized the SAR's importance to international pharmaceutical companies, which see the city as a base to expand their businesses in Asia. Under the new arrangement, pharmaceutical companies can directly file an application for a new drug with the hospital authority rather than going through a doctor who forwards it to public hospitals for a review, Choi added. He stated that Hong Kong's swift introduction of new drugs can also set an example and benefit neighboring regions, serving as a reference point for the mainland. Choi also mentioned that a panel of health economists from the 2 medical schools in the city will evaluate the safety, efficacy, and cost-effectiveness of the new drugs. This streamlined process and assessment will enhance bargaining power as well, reducing the price of some new drugs by 1/3.
Making a delayed appearance at Howard University in Washington, D.C., U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris did something her opponent refused to do in the aftermath of the 2020 election, which is accepting its results and committing to a peaceful transfer of power.
Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Unable to shatter the glass ceiling after failing to become the first woman president in U.S. history, Harris said she conceded defeat, but not the fight that fueled this campaign, urging the youthful supporters to roll up their sleeves.
Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before. You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves.
With the nation crying for change, disappointed supporters said Harris should not be blamed for the loss, as the Democrats never went through the primary process of selecting a deserving presidential nominee. And even though it is too late, others suggested that President Joe Biden not seeking a second term in office might have been helpful. Analysts believe that Harris, as the sitting vice president, was unable to untether herself from an unpopular president and convince voters that she could offer the change they were seeking amid widespread economic anxiety. Race and gender issue also played a significant role in her defeat. Anna Chan, Cable News.
Hong Kong could be caught in the crossfire if U.S. President-elect Donald Trump slaps tariffs on goods made in China. Lok Suk-hai, a consultant for the Chinese Association of Hong Kong and Macau Studies, remarked that Trump is not friendly towards Hong Kong and the region will likely become a pawn in his strategy to contain China. Law noted that it would not be surprising if Trump imposes new restrictions and sanctions on Hong Kong in response to legal or trade developments. Referencing the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act he signed during his previous term, as well as sanctions against officials like Carrie Lam and Chief Executive John Lee.
Do you think you could speak to Xi when you're back in the presidency about getting Jimmy Lai out of the country?
100% yes.
The national security law in related cases could also be used as an excuse for sanctions. Earlier, Gregory May, the U.S. Consul General in the SAR, said that Hong Kong must improve its treatment of political prisoners, among other measures, before its relationship with the United States can improve. The law refuted that such internal affairs should not be used as bargaining chips in bilateral relations. Neither the central government nor the SAR administration will change their policies simply because of external pressure, Law said. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
One day after an astounding victory, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, who scripted his own political resurrection, was taking congratulatory phone calls from world leaders and political rivals. Vice President Kamala Harris called Trump to concede the race, while President Joe Biden invited the man he ousted from the White House 4 years ago for a meeting at the Oval Office to prepare to return the keys. Transition discussions are expected to ramp up later in the week, and Trump has already started the process of selecting the members of his new cabinet. President Xi Jinping congratulated Trump on his victory and hoped to better Sino-U.S. ties. Xi urged both nations to find the right way to get along in the new era, so as to benefit both countries and the wider world. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had a warm and cordial conversation with Trump as well. The two agreed to work together for Israel's security and also discussed the Iranian threat. Trump's second term in office will be controversial, as he is a convicted felon awaiting sentencing in his hush money case to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Trump's attorneys are expected to enter a filing in the coming days, arguing that as president-elect, he is entitled to the same constitutional immunity as a sitting president and should be protected from any action by state prosecutors. The U.S. Department of Justice Special Counsel Jack Smith are reportedly winding down federal charges against Trump, citing a long-standing policy of not prosecuting a sitting president. Anna Chan, Cable News.
Germany has been thrown into political turmoil after Chancellor Olaf Scholz dismissed the finance minister Christian Lindner. The country's ruling three-party coalition has been mired in disputes for some time now over solutions for the struggling economy, which is in its second year of contraction.
Bundesminister Lindner wird vom Bundespräsidenten entlassen.
In a televised address, Scholz said firing Lindner was necessary to prevent harm to the country. Lindner had broken his trust too often and was focused on the short-term survival of his own party, Scholz added. In response, Lindner, who has the FDP, or Free Democratic Party, accused Scholz of failing to recognize the need for a new economic awakening in the country. He has shown that he does not have the strength to enable our country to make a new start, Lindner said. This so-called traffic light crisis emerged when Lindner rejected tax hikes or changes to Germany's strict self-imposed limits on running up debt. While Scholz's Social Democratic Party and the environmentalist Greens wanted to see massive state investment and rejected the Free Democrats' proposals to cut welfare programs. Tensions came to a tipping point when the Free Democrats announced their withdrawal from the coalition after Lindner's dismissal, plunging Europe's largest economy into political chaos. Elections are scheduled for September next year, but Scholz said he would seek a vote of confidence in January, which might lead to snap polls as early as March. Until then, Scholz said he would remain in office and reach out to opposition leader Friedrich Merz of the center-right Christian Democrats to confer on ways of strengthening the economy and defense. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
In what could be a groundbreaking decision to protect youngsters online, the Australian government is planning to introduce a legislation to ban children under 16 years old from social media.
Social media is doing harm to our kids, and I'm calling time on it. The onus will be on social media platforms to demonstrate they are taking reasonable steps to prevent access. The onus won't be on parents or young people. There will be no penalties for users. The legislation will come into force 12 months after passage. The E-Safety Commissioner will issue regulatory guidance setting out what reasonable steps can be taken by platforms, and that will be informed by the age assurance trial.
However, changes will be made to existing regulations to allow students the access to online educational services. While experts believe that the ban will only delay the exposure of young people to the online environment, others say proper implementation will be challenged, as previous attempts by the European Union to legislate something similar largely failed. But concern groups say that children need to be protected from harmful content, misinformation, bullying, and other social pressures. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Mainland's exports for last month recorded their fastest growth for over 2 years, jumping 12.7% year-on-year to $309 billion. The figure was significantly higher than the expected 5.5% increase and exceeded the 2.4% rise recorded in September. A government analyst attributed the better-than-expected export figures to a slew of incremental policies the central government implemented earlier last month to revive the economy. In contrast, imports experienced a decline of 2.3%, marking the end of a 3-month growth streak. The widening gap resulted in a trade surplus of $95.7 billion, the third highest monthly surplus on record. However, this comfortable position is challenged by Donald Trump's victory in the U.S. election yesterday. Analysts warn that he may extend tariffs on goods made in China to those made by China, potentially reaching as high as 60% when he assumes office in January. Despite these concerns, there is a possibility that his return could provide a short-term boost to Chinese exports, as U.S. importers might increase their purchases ahead of the impending tariffs.